Damn, this is the first negative recap on this channel. This will be the incomplete story of Zoochosis because, in its current state, for most, the game is unplayable. Zoochosis is a game developed by international game studio Clapperheads, who are only known for a couple other Five Nights at Freddy's knockoff horror games. When I say this game is unplayable, I don't mean system requirements or country exclusions, though that is an issue for some. I mean that the game soft locks around every corner. Trying to cure a mutant? Well, it turns out mutants can only be cured or killed when they're not stuck in an animation or not doing certain set pieces. Meaning if you shoot a mutant while they're climbing a wall, flying, on a pedestal, or doing animation for a set piece, they will freeze without fail. While trying to capture footage, I had 4 complete game-ending softlocks. One in the gorilla enclosure when I shot the gorilla climbing the wall, one while drawing blood from a penguin, which put me in a corner during the animation, one while trying to cure a mutant on a pedestal, and one during the tutorial. The fucking beginning of the game, the tutorial, has a fucking softlock. The doctor bumped into me during a loading screen, which stuck me in a corner. There's no crouch or jump action, so you can't even fight to unstick yourself. There are no other save states, which means if you get soft-locked at a checkpoint, tough luck, buddy. Better restart your entire game, and if you made it to the penguin enclosure like I did, it could have taken you 3 hours of progress. And by that point, you're already halfway through the entire game. That's right, the game is short as hell. Probably somewhere in the 6-hour mark for the $24 price tag. Fuck, I realize I need to cover the story. Or at least what I have of it. You are an impoverished husband in the 1990s. You will take any dirty work if it means feeding your family. The local zoo is in need of a new custodian, and it's offering $100K a year. This is insane compensation even for the greatest of hazmat standards. Without a second thought, you sign their NDA and take the job. Within the NDA is a lot of fine print that pretty much signs your life away if an animal was to attack you. Our mentor, only known as the doctor, congratulates us and gives us an injection to supposedly protect us from the diseases at the zoo. Naturally, we're skeezed out, but he assures us the scientists and workers are given this too. Before we can inquire about the scientists, we become lethargic from the injection. We wake up, and it's off to work. When we try to ask more questions about the job, he says employees are valued by their ability to find answers on their own. He gives us a tour of the main hub area. There's little tidbits of lore and info on the facility here and there. A place where we can stock up on food for our animals, and plenty of locked doors will uncover as the game goes on. We use a tram car to tour the facility, and the doc bumped into me and now I'm soft-locked. After a quick reset of the entire game and running through the unskippable intro again, we get to the giraffe exhibit. One actual cool game feature is you can choose what tools you bring with you on the job, and you can have a smaller tram car you can bring with you to the exhibits to carry multiple tools at once, giving you choices as to what you want to inspect the animals with first. Do you load up with the thermometer and syringe first to heal the healthy animals, or do you bring the shit sucker and the tranquilizer gun to protect yourself from hostile animals? This is actually a pretty novel concept only a small handful of horror games will actually execute well. As we load up on tools and supplies for our character, Paul questions the doc as to why the zoo has been closed for the past couple years. Doc himself claims he doesn't know, he just clocks in and out. He also claims he himself has been at the facility a lot longer than 2 years. We get to meet the animals, and I would actually say the best creepiness factor is having the animals watch you, especially when you're bringing food to their pen. Keep in mind I said this was the creepiest part. The monsters don't hold a candle to the idea that you're being watched by giant wildebeests, like giraffes or gorillas later on, and that wild animals on their own can tear you apart. There's also the feeling that you're trapped in the enclosure as well. You yourself are no better than these animals. Themes that will not be further explored as soon as they're introduced. One thing that is nice is bonding with each exhibit for the 30 minutes or so you take care of them. You can pet the animals, monitor their behavior, and some other aspects. Despite the problems I'm going to show soon, there's clearly some depth put into this game, and some devs clearly cared at one point. Another positive is that looting is kind of satisfying for how limited it is. You'll find a cabinet or a locker full of syringes, chemicals, and meds and juicy lore tidbits. However, the game only gives you just enough resources to cure the current animals in the current exhibit. So if you miss a single syringe or don't find that one bottle of meds, you're essentially soft-locked and have to restart the entire game. Again, there are no separate save files, so if you get to a checkpoint and you don't have enough resources, you can't cure any animals or even kill the mutant. This completely stops any progress from being made. After curing the giraffes, the doc lets us know he'll pick us up tomorrow after our night shift duty. He locks us inside the zoo for the night. Our wife is waiting for us to come home outside, but we let her know we won't be back until our job is done. We give her some meat we think to be beef from the food storage, and then head to the gorilla enclosure. And again, the creepiest part of the game is trying to maneuver through wild animals. I was more afraid of normal gorillas ripping my face off than a mutant picking me up and throwing me around. Fuck it, don't make a game about mutants, make a horror game where you're a zookeeper trying to feed animals in an abandoned zoo, and they haven't been fed in a while. It's a lot more down to earth and practical than some of these cartoonish designs we're about to see. The mutant gorilla seems to be so otherworldly, it's uncanny against the realistic wall textures and high resolution settings. Even on low settings, these monster designs seem so cartoony. I didn't see the kangaroo one during my playthrough, but looking back at the trailer, it just looks so goofy with Looney Tune-ass teeth in its stomach. Anyways, we softlock our game trying to use lethal injection darts on the gorilla while it climbs a wall. And we have to start over from the beginning of the game because the gorilla gets stuck in an animation. Despite how scarce resources are in the game, it's at least cool that you have a certain amount of time until the monsters kill the other innocent animals and thus fail your job. It creates this interesting balance of what animals you have to let go in order to save yourself, but lose too many and you lose your job. So that's credit where credit is due. I would even say it's a cool, unique mechanic since the game did an okay job of balancing horror survival and zookeeping elements. It would have been more successful if you could see your own health bar. If you let the monsters attack you too much throughout the entire playthrough, you'll turn into a zombie. But the game doesn't portray that well enough, and you can't see your large health bar. I specify large because the monsters can attack you again and again and again for what seems like little to no risk, which really takes the horror out of the game. We finally cure the gorillas, and on the way back to our hub, we get a call from one of the coworkers' wives, trying to see how our scientist husband is doing. She hasn't seen him in a while. We tell her we'll be on the lookout for him, but she starts to panic over the phone, saying he needs his medicine. She even gives us the combination to his locker, so that way we can give it to him. When we get back to the hideout, we've received a shipment of meat, which is in the horrific form of cadavers. We grind it up and add the human meat to our food storage. If you thought that went from 0 to 10 real quick, then this next lore dump is nauseatingly paced. We find a severed human hand in the food and use it to get past one of the fingerprint scanners in our hideout. In this bunker, we find out the doctor has been experimenting on animals, has gotten several coworkers killed and turned into cadavers, and intends on doing the same to us. We learn that the infected are from several parts of the world, but the infection itself has a mother, one that is locked up in this facility. We find our cell phone and call our wife about the situation. We tell her not to eat the meat we gave the family, but it's too late. Our wife later calls the police about the zoo. Our phone dies shortly thereafter. We get a call from the scientist's wife, who intends on coming to the facility to avenge her husband, who's clearly dead at this point. We still have like 5 or 6 enclosures to get through, and it's dumping so much of the lore on us now rather than spreading it out better. Granted, there isn't much to spread out because the game is so short. I move on to the penguin exhibit and softlock. Twice. Because I had to restart from the very beginning of the game, I was now well over the 2-hour refund mark for Steam, and quickly losing my patience. The mechanics of resource management and which tools you bring with you was quickly losing its charm, as the process for each animal was very much the same. Feed the animals, get temperature, collect poop, neutralize the mutant that inexplicably shows up. I finally quit the game and the story as a whole when the penguin mutant stood on a pedestal and tanked lethal shots like a motherfucker. It would not come down. I think they have to play an animation first before they can actually die. An animation which clearly did not trigger. It's a shame because I thought the penguin mutant actually fit the setting unlike the others, and it had this cool niche that it would sprout wings and fly around the enclosure. After the soft lock, I threw my hands up in the air, said I'm done, left a bad Steam review, and as well as this video. From what I looked up online, the story plays out predictably. You and the scientist's wife kill the doctor, infect the mother of the infection herself, cure the main character of his wounds, and escape. Honestly, not much to see here for the repetitive 6 hours or so of story. And it kind of hurts too, because the game shows it was capable of being this unique mix of horror and zookeeping simulator, but couldn't execute either well enough, or even have the length to warrant it. At some point in development, the screenwriter passed away, and some members' morale fell down because of it. That definitely has something to do with this release. I know this is a disappointing story recap. but I delivered what I said in the title, the incomplete story of Zoochosis. I implore you to read some more reviews and watch the cutscenes on YouTube, as to those two are filled with bugs and paint the bigger picture. You don't need to pay the $24 for the game itself. That's all I have for now. Next month I cover a more cohesive, small story. This has been MG Decimators, and I'll see you in the next story.